A week before Christmas, I heard my fiancée whisper she was going to dump me. He's going to remember this Christmas for the rest of his life, ha. But she forgot one thing. I always finish what people start. So on Christmas Day, right before her family arrived, I used to think December had a predictable rhythm. People settled into holiday routines, work slowed down, and houses filled with the smell of cinnamon and pine. I always liked that sense of structure. It felt like the world paused long enough for people to catch their breath. That was the version of Christmas I expected this year, the one where I would propose to the woman I planned to spend the rest of my life with. I had already chosen the ring, rehearsed what I wanted to say, and imagined the reactions of our families when they heard the news. I had even made a quiet bet with myself that she would cry in the best way possible, the kind of tears that confirmed everything we had built. I did not expect the bet to flip into something completely opposite. The question that started forming in my mind the night I overheard her changed everything. What was she willing to do on Christmas Day that she believed I would remember forever? The moment that question appeared, the rhythm of my life cracked. It was a week before Christmas. I had been half asleep on the couch after staying up late finishing a project for work. Talia had gone to bed earlier. At some point, I drifted off with the TV humming in the background. I woke to silence. The lights were still off, the room cold enough to sting the tip of my nose. I heard her feet on the hallway floor. They were light, careful steps, the kind she used when trying not to wake someone. She stopped near the front door, and the quiet house carried her voice. She spoke fast, like someone confirming last-minute plans. Her tone was playful, rehearsed, almost theatrical. She talked about Christmas and how she wanted the moment to unfold. She said she was leaving me and that she had something special planned for the day, something dramatic enough to make the holiday unforgettable. The laugh she let out after saying it had a sharp edge that did not match the woman I thought I knew. I stayed on the couch, completely still, breathing in a slow, measured pattern so it sounded like sleep. My mind raced with questions that had never existed between us before. The first one was simple. Why? When she tiptoed back to the bedroom, I remained on the couch, staring at the faint outline of the ceiling. I waited until I heard her climb under the covers. After a long stretch of silence, I stood up with the careful movements of someone who did not want to be detected. I walked to the kitchen and poured water into a glass, letting the noise of the faucet mask the thoughts forming in my head. I remembered the bet I had made with myself about proposing. Now the bet shifted into a different kind of challenge. She wanted a Christmas I would never forget. Fine, but she forgot one thing. I always finish what people start. The next morning, she acted as if nothing unusual had happened. She asked about breakfast and started planning tasks we needed to complete before our families visited for the holiday. Her casual tone convinced me she believed she had executed her little midnight performance undetected. I played along. I had always been good at keeping my expression steady, a skill that came naturally from working in an office where people pretended to agree more often than they actually did. I decided that for the next week, I would stop relying on assumptions and start paying attention to every detail around me. Small things stood out the moment I began watching. She kept her phone tighter to her body. She avoided leaving it on tables or counters. She changed the password without mentioning it. She started wearing perfume before going out for what she described as holiday errands. Her excuses became strangely vague. She talked about returning a sweater or picking up groceries, but never came back with anything new. By the third day, I realized she was operating on a schedule she did not want me to glimpse. Despite the strange behavior, she kept discussing Christmas plans as if everything was normal. We had agreed weeks earlier that both families would come by on Christmas Day for brunch. Her parents loved elaborate meals, so she insisted on hosting it at our house. It made sense at the time. I figured merging the families would make my proposal even more meaningful. Now I saw the flaw in that idea. If she intended to embarrass me, Christmas Day provided the perfect stage. I knew I needed information, not assumptions. That led to the first twist in my understanding of the situation. She went out the next day to meet a friend for what she said was last-minute gift exchange. I waited 10 minutes and drove to the store where she claimed she would be. She was not there. I waited another 15 minutes, pacing near the parking lot entrance. She never appeared. I did not try calling her because I needed to see what she would tell me later. Instead, I returned home, opened her laptop, and searched through the browser history. She must have forgotten to log out of one of her email tabs. I saw a confirmation for a one-way plane ticket scheduled for the day after Christmas. She booked it under her maiden name, which she had not used in years. That detail was not only suspicious, it was revealing. She planned to leave immediately after the breakup. This meant she had been preparing her exit long before the night I overheard her. There was no sudden impulse. It was deliberate. When she came home, she acted cheerful and kissed me on the cheek as if everything was fine. I asked her how the gift exchange went. She said her friend had been sick and canceled last minute. She made up a story about going to a cafe instead. I nodded. There was no point challenging her now. The next night, we visited her parents for an early holiday dinner. Her mother, Elaine, greeted us warmly, but her eyes flickered in a strange way when she looked at me. Her father, Gary, shook my hand but asked probing questions about work that felt like tests rather than conversation. I listened, answered politely, and watched how their eyes drifted toward Talia as if expecting her to reveal something. They were restless. Her sister, Brielle, arrived later with the energy of someone who wanted to be anywhere else. She kept glancing at her phone, looking troubled. Halfway through dinner, something clicked. The entire family was acting like they were waiting for a performance to begin. It reminded me of people at a theater before the curtain rises. They were trying to act normal, but anticipation slipped through the cracks. I watched their reactions closely. When Talia left the table to take a call, I saw her mother exchange a quick look with her father. It was a look that said they knew something I did not. My earlier question resurfaced with stronger intensity. What exactly was she planning? Later that evening, as we prepared to leave, I walked down the hallway toward the bathroom. I paused when I heard soft voices coming from the guest bedroom. The door was slightly open. I recognized Brielle's voice. She was talking to a cousin who had stopped by earlier. Brielle sounded frustrated. She said Talia was moving out after Christmas and that someone had convinced her she deserved a different kind of life. She said Talia planned to deliver the breakup in a dramatic way in front of both families so she could justify disappearing. She said she did not support it, but Talia would not listen to anyone. Hearing that confirmed what I suspected. This was not a breakup. This was a performance. On the drive home, I stayed quiet. My pulse remained steady. I did not confront her because I wanted to see how far she would push her little production. By the time we reached the house, I had formed a plan. The structure was simple. Give her the illusion that everything was unfolding exactly as she wanted, let the tension build, and pull her rug out at the precise moment she expected triumph. The next morning, when she sat beside me on the couch and pretended to be affectionate, I made my first move. I told her that I invited my family for Christmas brunch. Her eyes widened for a second before she forced a smile. I saw the panic behind it. She needed the breakup to happen in front of her family alone. My decision ruined the balance she expected. She tried to suggest that my family would prefer celebrating in the evening. I told her they were excited and could not wait. She nodded again, but this time her breathing became uneven. I noticed her gripping the couch cushion with her fingertips. The tempo of the situation changed from subtle suspicion to open psychological tension. Throughout that day, she kept watching me from different parts of the house, as if waiting for me to reveal a sign of weakness. I maintained an even expression and immersed myself in tasks around the house. She paced the kitchen, scrolled through her phone, whispered into it, and deleted messages quickly. She was losing control of her narrative, and she felt it. I understood at that point that the week ahead would not be quiet. It would be a countdown, a 7-day runway leading to a collision neither of us could avoid. But I was no longer the passive recipient she planned for. I had stepped into the role of someone prepared, observant, and patient. She wanted to script something for Christmas. Fine. She could write her lines. I would choose the ending. And that was the moment the real story began. The change in Talia began the morning after I told her my family would join us for Christmas. Her rhythm broke. She moved around the house with the restless energy of someone trying to solve a puzzle without all the pieces. She opened and closed cabinets without taking anything out, checked her phone every minute, and paused in doorways as if reconsidering her next step. I could tell she was rewriting whatever performance she had planned. She needed the conditions to be perfect to pull it off, and I had disrupted that balance with a single sentence. She did not know how much more disruption was coming. I observed everything. Her voice sharpened during phone calls. She whispered more. When she thought I was not looking, she texted rapidly with her thumb shaking slightly from tension. I watched her rehearse different expressions in the bathroom mirror when she thought she had privacy. She kept adjusting her holiday dress on the hanger, smoothing the fabric repeatedly, as if preparing for a stage she no longer trusted. By the second day, she made her first attempt to regain control. She approached me with a smile that looked carefully arranged. She said she thought brunch might be too rushed for both families and suggested pushing my parents' visit to the evening. She framed it as consideration, but her eyes were focused intensely on my reaction. I said my parents had already bought ingredients for dishes they wanted to bring. Her smile tightened. She tried another angle, saying her mother had prepared a family surprise for the morning and wanted us fully present for it. I nodded calmly and told her we would all enjoy it together. The moment I said that, she blinked twice, slowly, as if her mind needed time to process the shift of power. By the third day, she became visibly agitated. She burned toast twice, spilled coffee on the floor, and snapped at a neighbor for letting his dog bark too loudly. She stayed out longer in the afternoons, claiming she needed time to think. When she returned, she acted overly affectionate, almost forced, leaning on my shoulder and asking if I was excited for Christmas. The sudden sweetness did not match the anxiety behind her eyes. I played along and kept my responses light. My calmness seemed to cause her more stress than confrontation ever would have. The second twist of the week arrived unexpectedly through Brielle. It was the afternoon before the pre-Christmas gathering at her parents' house. I had just returned from buying a few groceries when I noticed a car parked crookedly near our driveway. Brielle sat inside, gripping the steering wheel as if she had been wrestling with the decision to get out. When she finally stepped onto the pavement, her expression carried the heavy look of someone forced into a moral crossroads. She walked toward me with hesitant steps. She said she wanted to talk privately. I led her to the backyard where the cold air held her words close. She hesitated, looked toward the house, and lowered her voice. She told me there was someone else in the picture. She said his name quietly, as if embarrassed for even being aware of it. Reed, a co-worker who had been around for months. A man who had spent more time with Talia lately than anyone admitted openly. Brielle said she did not agree with any of it, but she had no control over what her sister did. Then she revealed something that shifted the floor beneath everything I thought I understood. Talia planned to accuse me of being distant and controlling as part of the breakup. She wanted a justification that would make her look sympathetic to her family and Reed. She wanted to create an explanation that erased her guilt and placed everything onto my shoulders. Brielle said she felt sick just repeating it, and I could see she meant it. I thanked her. She looked relieved and terrified at the same time, as if confessing was the only way to ease her conscience before the holiday chaos began. As she walked away, I realized I now had the final missing piece. Not just the plan, but the script she intended to use. She wanted to turn me into the villain. She wanted sympathy. She wanted theatrics. Instead, she was going to get reality. That evening, when we arrived at her parents' house for dinner, I watched everyone with a sharper lens. Her mother's smile held an undertone of forced politeness. Her father pretended everything was normal, but kept observing me from the corner of his eye. Brielle hovered near the kitchen, trying to appear relaxed but glancing my way whenever her sister walked too close to me. Talia remained glued to her phone until her mother scolded her lightly. The entire house carried the tension of people hiding a secret they believed only belonged to them. During dinner, Talia spoke about wedding trends as if she expected us to be discussing our own soon. She played the role of a woman committed to a future she had no intention of keeping. Her performance was polished, but the seams were visible now that I knew where to look. When she excused herself for a call, I watched her parents exchange a subtle nod, as if acknowledging that the moment they anticipated was getting closer. I stepped out onto the porch to get some fresh air. The cold night felt steadier than the atmosphere inside. I needed a moment to process how far she was willing to go. I had loved this woman deeply enough to imagine a life with her, yet she saw me as an obstacle to remove dramatically. The realization did not break me. It clarified me. I saw the truth without emotional fog. When I returned inside, I noticed her slipping her phone into her purse with a triumphant expression she tried to hide. She had arranged something from the porch, most likely with Reed. I kept my expression neutral. I wanted her to believe her plan was intact. On the drive home, she acted unusually cheerful, humming along to Christmas songs on the radio. The contrast between her mood and her hidden agenda sharpened every sound in the car, from the tapping of her nails on the window to the rhythm of her breath. I let the silence stretch between us. She seemed eager to fill it with casual comments about decorations and gifts, but I refused to give her the comfort of conversation. When we arrived home, she went straight to the bedroom and shut the door. I waited a few minutes, then walked down the hallway and stopped when I heard her whispering again. She was practicing lines. She rehearsed explanations for why she needed to leave, building a narrative where I became the problem. The phrases were rehearsed with precision, as if she had practiced them many times already. I stepped back quietly before she noticed me. The next morning, she attempted to act affectionate again. She brought me coffee and asked if I slept well. Her eyes darted nervously as she spoke, tracking every expression on my face. I thanked her and went back to reading. My indifference unnerved her more than anger would have. She spent the rest of the day walking around the house with restless energy, trying to anticipate moves I had no intention of revealing. By evening, she became bold enough to test a new strategy. She approached me with a concerned expression and said I seemed stressed lately. She said she hoped the holidays were not overwhelming for me. I recognized the setup immediately. She was planting early seeds for the narrative she intended to use. I reassured her that everything was fine and told her I appreciated her concern. My steady tone seemed to unsettle her more than any confrontation would have. As the hours passed, her behavior spiraled further. She tried calling Brielle twice, but her sister did not answer. She paced the living room with the phone pressed to her ear, checking the clock every few minutes. I watched her from the dining table, letting her stew in her own anxiety. She wanted predictable reactions from me because they would support her script. I gave her none. That night, I lay awake in bed while she breathed unevenly beside me. I realized something important. She did not fear losing me. She feared losing control of the story she wanted to tell. That distinction changed my entire approach. I did not need to fight her. I only needed to give her enough space to collapse under the weight of her own plan. Christmas was coming, and the countdown had begun. She wanted a moment that would define the holiday. She wanted a memory she believed I would carry for life. Fine, she would get her moment, but it would not play out the way she imagined. It would play out the way I decided. The tension in the house reached a new level 2 days before Christmas. It no longer felt like a place people lived in, but like a stage being prepared for a performance that kept changing scripts. Every room carried the same thick atmosphere, and every sound echoed with the sense that Talia was trying to regain control while losing more of it by the minute. She moved from room to room with quick, sharp motions, constantly checking her phone, flinching whenever it buzzed, as if every message added pressure she couldn't absorb fast enough. That morning, she tried being cheerful again. She asked what I wanted for breakfast, then suggested we rearrange the living room to make space for both families. She insisted on changing the seating arrangement 3 times in 30 minutes. She rotated plates, adjusted napkins, and unfolded towels only to fold them again. Her hands shook during every task, and she blamed it on cold fingers, but the house was warm. It was not the temperature bothering her. It was the realization that her plan was slipping away from her. Around midday, she stepped outside to take a call. I watched her through the window. She paced the driveway with one hand on her temple, shoulders tense, inhaling sharply between sentences. I didn't need to hear the words to understand the conversation. She was speaking to Reed. She kept shaking her head as if disagreeing with something he said. Eventually, she turned toward the house with a frustrated expression and ended the call abruptly. When she walked back inside, she plastered on a smile that didn't match her eyes. That was the moment I understood something important. She no longer believed her plan would unfold smoothly. She still wanted the dramatic Christmas moment, but doubt was eating away at her confidence. She wanted to force the situation back under her control, and every attempt made her look less stable. I allowed the silence between us to work against her. I didn't question her, didn't prompt her, didn't show concern. My steadiness became the thing she couldn't decode. She kept waiting for me to act the way she had scripted me, confused, anxious, suspicious, but instead she saw nothing but calm composure. It made her nervous enough to start pushing in new directions. The second twist of the week came from an unexpected angle. That afternoon, someone knocked at the door. I assumed it was a neighbor dropping off holiday cookies or a package delivery. When I opened it, I found Brielle on the doorstep, eyes wide, cheeks flushed from the cold and from something heavier than weather. She asked if she could come in. I nodded and stepped aside. Talia's expression changed instantly when she saw her sister. Her posture stiffened and her jaw tightened. Brielle said she needed to speak with me alone. Talia tried to object, but Brielle stood her ground with a firmness I hadn't seen from her before. She suggested we sit on the back patio where the air was cold and the distance from the house provided privacy. As soon as we stepped outside and closed the door, I could tell she was carrying information she didn't want to hold anymore. She told me Reed wasn't just a casual coworker. He had been in Talia's life for months, gaining more influence as time passed. She explained that he had been encouraging the breakup, promising her a different kind of life, pushing the idea that I was a placeholder she needed to release. Brielle said she didn't approve of any of it, but Talia had stopped listening to family and had started listening only to Reed. Then she revealed the part that shifted the energy of the entire week. Reed was married. He had 2 children. His wife had no idea what was going on. He was planning to leave her during the holidays, but according to Brielle, he had hesitated at the last minute, which caused tension between him and Talia. She told me the phone call earlier that day had been about his cold feet. He was reconsidering the entire plan. He didn't want a dramatic Christmas scene. He didn't want the attention. He wanted everything to stay quiet until he figured out his own situation. That explained the frustrated pacing, the tense whispers, and the erratic behavior. Talia realized she could be making a public leap while Reed wasn't willing to catch her. Brielle said she came forward because things were spiraling into something she believed could explode in a way none of us were prepared for. She looked exhausted, as if she hadn't slept for days. I assured her I understood, and she nodded with visible relief, though still weighed down by dread. As Brielle left, I saw Talia watching from the hallway with the expression of someone trying to calculate how much had been revealed. She didn't confront me immediately. Instead, she retreated into the bedroom and shut the door. I heard drawers opening and closing, the zipper of a suitcase sliding, and the sound of something heavy being placed on the bed. It didn't take much imagination to understand what she was doing. She was preparing a backup plan in case her grand Christmas performance fell apart. I walked down the hallway, stood near the bedroom door, and listened without breathing loudly enough to give myself away. She was on another call. The tone was frantic. She said she needed certainty from Reed, that she couldn't risk the embarrassment of changing plans in front of both families. She mentioned the flight she booked, reminding him she had everything arranged. She insisted she wouldn't let all her preparations fall apart just because he needed more time. The entire situation became clearer by the second. She wasn't planning a breakup for emotional closure. She was planning it for spectacle. She needed shock value, attention, validation, and a clean exit. She wanted to step into a new life with Reed, but he was slipping out of the frame faster than she could pull him back in. When she hung up the call, she sat on the edge of the bed. I stayed silent in the hallway. After a moment, I heard her start to cry into her hands, not from guilt, but from losing control. She couldn't execute her performance without Reed supporting her. She couldn't abandon the plan because she had built too much around it. She couldn't handle the growing pressure, and she couldn't figure out why I wasn't reacting. Her panic made her reckless. She rushed out of the bedroom, eyes red, trying to act composed even though she was shaking. She said she needed to step out for a quick errand. She grabbed her purse and left before I could respond. I let the silence swallow the closing door. When she returned an hour later, she carried a bag of groceries she didn't need. She placed them on the counter with movements that were too stiff to be natural. She was pretending to re-establish normalcy, pretending to be calm, pretending she wasn't scrambling. The performance looked flimsy now, thinner than paper. I decided it was time to push the tempo forward. I needed to make her feel the shift, not through confrontation, but through predictable stability. Her chaos grew in the absence of mine. I told her my parents planned to bring additional dishes for brunch and needed to confirm arrival time. I mentioned it casually while pouring water. Her reaction was immediate. She froze mid-step, then asked if I had already confirmed everything. I said yes. The moment those words left my mouth, she leaned on the counter for support. Her Christmas plan depended entirely on me appearing alone, vulnerable, and unprepared. My family's presence destroyed her entire staging. She tried to smile, but failed halfway through the expression. That night, I heard her crying again, but not quietly this time. The sound traveled through the house. It wasn't the sadness of someone losing love. It was the anxiety of someone losing control. On Christmas Eve morning, she woke earlier than usual. She cleaned the house with rapid, unfocused movements, rearranging objects without purpose, as if trying to create order outside because she couldn't create it inside. She checked the guest bedroom 4 times, as if sensing something wrong but unable to identify what. She couldn't feel my plan forming, and that made her even more uneasy. Later that day, she received another call from Reed. She closed the bedroom door, but her voice rose loud enough through the walls that I caught pieces. She told him she couldn't stall any longer. She said she needed him beside her during the breakup, that she couldn't risk her family turning against her without support. I heard him respond only once. The tone was sharp, cold. She tried arguing, but her voice broke. Then came the silence that lasted long enough for me to know the conversation ended badly. An hour later, she walked out of the bedroom with an expression emptied of confidence. Her eyes darted constantly. She held her phone tightly, checking it every minute even though no messages arrived. She didn't know how to pivot. She couldn't cancel the plan. She couldn't execute it alone. She couldn't rely on Reed anymore. The collapse was coming. By the evening, she sat on the couch with her arms wrapped around herself. I sat across the room, watching her in the dim light of the Christmas tree. She looked like someone trapped in her own maze, taking every wrong turn because the right one no longer existed. Christmas was one night away, and she had no idea her final miscalculation was waiting in the guest bedroom, fully prepared for morning. Christmas morning arrived without ceremony. The house felt strangely silent, like the quiet before a cold front hits. Snow covered the yard, and pale winter light spilled faintly across the living room floor. It should have been the kind of morning people remember for warm reasons, but the air inside felt tense enough to bend. I woke before Talia. She slept in short, uneven breaths, wrapped in a blanket as if trying to hide from something she knew was coming. I left the room quietly and walked through the hallway toward the guest bedroom. The house felt different now. Every step carried a sense of finality. I paused at the bedroom door, took a breath, then opened it. The first thing I saw were the suitcases she packed, the ones she planned to take after the performance she rehearsed so carefully. And sitting beside those suitcases, exactly as arranged, was Reed's wife. Her name was Marissa. She sat calmly, hands clasped in her lap, wearing a winter coat and an expression that revealed she was beyond shock. I had contacted her the evening before when I decided the situation required someone with a stake deeper than mine. I kept my voice steady during the call. She responded with a kind of silent composure that told me she had suspected something but hadn't known where to look. She thanked me when she arrived that morning. Her calmness wasn't cold. It was the resolve of someone who had finally obtained proof that her life needed to change. I offered her tea, and she accepted without hesitation. She had been sitting in the guest bedroom for almost 20 minutes now, her presence quiet but powerful. Nothing about her felt confrontational. She simply waited for truth to do what it always does, surface. I told her that everything would unfold naturally. She nodded. There was no revenge in her posture, no rage, only clarity. When I heard movement from the primary bedroom, I stepped into the hallway. Talia emerged slowly, wearing a robe, hair tangled, eyes exhausted from nights spent awake. She looked like someone preparing for an exam she expected to fail. She offered me a brittle smile and said she wanted to start breakfast early. I nodded and asked if she could come with me for a moment. My voice was even, almost gentle. She hesitated, suspicious of the tone, but she followed. When I opened the guest bedroom door, she froze. Her eyes widened, not with guilt but with panic. She stared at Marissa sitting beside her packed luggage. Her breath caught in her throat. She stepped backward until her shoulder hit the doorframe. Her posture collapsed, and a faint shake spread through her hands. Marissa looked up with quiet steadiness. She didn't raise her voice. She didn't insult. She didn't plead. She simply stated the truth. She knew everything. She had all the details. She knew about the calls, the plans, the promises Reed made, the promises he wouldn't keep, and the timing that coincidentally aligned with the holidays. Talia didn't speak. Her mouth opened and closed several times, but no words formed. That silence told a larger story than any confession ever could. She had no script prepared for this. Her entire dramatic plan assumed Reed would stand behind her. She didn't anticipate his wife stepping into the room where she planned to stage her triumph. Each second she stood there felt heavier. I didn't interrupt. I let the weight of the moment settle around her. She finally tried to form a sentence, something between denial and justification, but her voice cracked. She stared at the suitcases as if realizing they revealed far more than she could ever explain. Marissa remained composed. She said she would not stay long. She told Talia she would handle her own household privately and that she expected honesty from Reed when she confronted him. She said she did not come to humiliate her. She came to close a door she should have closed earlier. Then she stood slowly, thanked me again, and walked past Talia without making eye contact. When the front door closed behind her, the house felt heavier than before. The silence between us expanded into something cold and irreversible. I walked into the living room and opened the curtains. Outside, her parents' car pulled into the driveway. I heard her inhale sharply behind me. She stepped into the room with trembling hands and attempted to compose herself, smoothing her robe, trying to fix her hair as if she could erase what had just happened through appearance alone. Her parents entered the house with bright greetings. They expected holiday cheer. They expected the warm performance she promised them. Instead, they found a daughter who couldn't lift her eyes from the floor. Her mother asked what was wrong. Her father asked if she felt sick. She didn't answer either question. She kept glancing at me as if hoping I would give her a lifeline, a way out, a distraction. But I didn't speak. I let her carry the weight she placed on her own shoulders. Her father grew impatient and asked directly what had happened. That was the moment everything unraveled faster than she could contain. Talia tried to invent a story about stress, but her mother interrupted with concern sharp enough to slice through the lie. She asked again, this time firmer. Talia cracked. She didn't confess the truth. Instead, she blamed circumstances, responsibility, expectations, work, anything she could. Her explanations contradicted one another. She said she needed time apart, then said she needed a fresh start, then said Christmas felt overwhelming. None of it connected. None of it formed the narrative she rehearsed all week. Without Reed backing her, without the emotional boost she expected, her script fell apart like wet paper. Her parents realized quickly that something deeper was wrong. Her father grew stern. Her mother's voice dropped into a tone that revealed disappointment more than anger. Their reactions weren't theatrical. They were real, grounded responses from parents who expected dignity from their adult child and instead found chaos. Once their questioning reached the limit of patience, I stepped forward and took control of the morning. I told them I would not be continuing the engagement. I stated it with calm finality. Their surprise was immediate, but they did not question me the way they questioned her. They saw the imbalance clearly. They sensed there was more beneath the surface, but also recognized I wasn't the source of it. Talia tried to interrupt. She tried to salvage something, maybe the image she wanted them to keep. But the more she spoke, the less coherent she became. Her emotions spiraled with no structure, no direction, no clarity. Her parents watched her with expressions that shifted between confusion and regret. I remained steady. I told her she could stay through the holidays if she wished, but she would need to arrange to pick up her belongings in January. The statement wasn't cruel. It was structured, practical, and controlled. It closed the chapter without theatricality. Her mother placed a hand on her father's arm, as if grounding herself. Her father nodded at me with a solemn expression that conveyed respect. Then they guided their daughter outside, giving her space to regain composure in the cold morning air. I stayed inside, lifted the mugs from the counter, and poured hot water into them. The house felt different now. Not lighter yet, but clear. When my own family arrived minutes later, I stepped outside to greet them. They were cheerful, unaware of the storm that had passed through the house before they arrived. I kept the morning pleasant, helping them bring food inside, making space on the counter, and discussing holiday plans with ease. Behind us, through the window, I could see Talia sitting in her parents' car, staring straight ahead with a hollow expression. She wasn't angry. She wasn't sad. She was stunned. Her entire plan collapsed from the inside, crushed by the weight of her own deception. She had expected a dramatic moment that shifted the story her way. Instead, she walked straight into the consequences she never believed could reach her. The aftermath unfolded quietly. Reed abandoned her entirely after learning his wife knew everything. He cut ties immediately to protect his own household. Talia spent several months staying with Brielle, who tried to support her but struggled with the damage in the family. Her parents needed time to rebuild trust with her. Their disappointment ran deeper than the breakup. As for me, peace didn't return all at once, but it arrived gradually, like snow melting in spring. I moved to a new apartment, reorganized my routines, and rebuilt my life brick by brick. No theatrics, no chaos, just structure. And Christmas became memorable, just not in the way she imagined. She wanted to give me a story I'd never forget. She succeeded, but not for the reasons she planned.